Research methodology is more philosophical framework as opposed to research method, which is more practical techniques and tools and procedure. Why we need to do the research? So it is very important to clarify the purpose, why the study is being conducted, why the study is so important. So research question should be feasible, okay, manageable, okay, and achievable, okay, achieve their depth and originality. Research needs to answer, so what? After you conduct the research and the people ask you, so what? So what can I learn from it? Okay? It doesn't work. Therefore, when you're shaping their research idea, okay, research proposal, we always mm, pay attention to these simple questions. So what? So what questions? The research should be done based on the previous research, and education is a step ladder. So understanding of the previous study outcomes, is findings in study is very important.
So we are back with our last workshop of the day, which is on research methodology in architecture. So I would like to invite Dr. Masa Noguchi onto the stage. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Good. Hi. So let me brief about the workshop. Research in the foundation of innovative and impactful architecture design is explores the structured processes architects use to gather insights, analyze data, and develop solutions that respond to social, environmental, and functional needs. To guide us in turning our observations into a scientific publication, let me introduce you to Dr. Masa Noguchi. He is an associate professor in environmental design at the Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning, University of Melbourne. He specializes in environmental experience design and focuses on design making analysis based on a mass customization framework. This framework embraces machine learning and value engineering techniques. The goal is to improve operational energy efficiency, affordability, and well-being of occupants in the built environment. In parallel to EXD studies, he has also initiated a global movement on zero energy mass custom home and vertical village or subdivision plug-in housing system research and development for future-proof city evolution. So we will hand over the mic to Masa Noguchi. And before we begin, I would like to ask all our listeners to comment their queries in the chat box in YouTube, and we will have a 5-minute Q&A session after the work. So handing over to you.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay. So once again, thank you very much for having me. It is a great honor to take part of this very important summit. And I'm going to talk about research methodology, which can be applied to architecture. But research methodology itself is the more universal. It could be applied to any disciplines. But today, I very much focus on how the process could be applied to architecture, in which I'm aiming to introduce my former student experience of how to shape their research ideas and turning in the individual knowledge into the group knowledge. So let me start with it. Today's talk consists of three components. First of all, let me so I just put it here. First of all, comprehensive introduction to research methodology in architecture. General steps I like to introduce and exemplify how the research methodology helps to shape the research idea. And if we have some time left, I like to introduce some research engagement activities, particularly ZEMCH, EXD. I'm going to explain what it stands for later, and discussions. So let me start with the first component of my sessions, comprehensive introduction to research methodology and architecture. Can you?
Excuse me, are you trying to
Yeah,
change the slides right now?
yeah, yes. I need to change
We are
that.
not
Uh,
able to see it.
okay,
Is
maybe
it?
probably I need to do manually like that. Ah, okay. Here we go. it worked manually. So I just do like this. Okie doke.
We are not able
Anyhow,
to see the slides change.
so can you see my slides now? Is it okay? All right. So just push this one. Okay. So I like to identify the
It's
differences.
still not visible. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
Could you just initiate it once more?
okay. I just close
Yes,
this.
yes. Could you just move the slides a bit? It's not moving.
Is it working?
No.
How about this one? Is it working?
We are not able to see the slides change. Could you
Oh.
reshare the entire screen once more?
Mm-hmm. How
Uh,
about this?
could you change the slide again?
How about this one?
No. Could you reshare it once more?
So maybe should I make a presentation like that?
Yeah, just try that. Yeah.
Oh, I can't change the slides though if I do like this. Maybe I like this.
Yes.
Okay, I don't mind. I don't mind, but it looks not really.
There
It's a
must be
lie.
some technical issue.
Yeah. Well. Okay. How about this one? How about this? Is it
The
better?
next, the next slide. Yes, yes. Now we can see. I think you'll have to double tap. Yes. Now
Well. Okay. So this is not the right way to do, but I don't mind. I can do like that way. Okay. Let me continue. Um, so now I hope you can see my slides here, and I already explained to you. And these are three components. And let me explain the differences between a research methodology and research method. A research methodology is more philosophical framework or approach that guides how the research is conducted. So this is the more kind of larger uh, the vision of the how the research idea could be shaped. And research method is more practical technique and tools and procedures used to gather and analyze the data. So that's the difference between research methodology and method. But actually, research method is part of research methodology. So let me explain these components a little bit further using next slides. Okay, so for purpose of this study, I simplify the steps okay, that can be uh, that can consist the research methodological process. Step one is scope of the study, okay, which is more area, subject, area, topic that research is working on. And step two is the background information. And based on the step one, the area uh, is identified. And in the context of the area, there are some data, background data is collected. Step three, in based on their background informations and rationalize their study. Why this study is so important, and based on the rationale for the study, a research question, research problems will be identified. So in order to answer research problems or questions, some actions taking place, which is step five, research objectives. And in order to carry out research objectives or actions, some research tools, techniques would be implemented. So I'm going to explain one by one a little more detail. Let me start with the step one, scope of study. What scope of study means? So step one, scope of study. A scope of study is the area and the subject matter, a topic being investigated. Yeah. Um, so that is the very important the components of the scope. So scoping, which area you want to step in, yeah? and and also we should consider geographical uh, informations, locations where the study is conducted, or which the data is came from. Okay? And we need to consider a time frame when the data is collected. For example, you know, we have a seasonal differences, and daytimes and nighttimes and differences. So, and how long we can use for their data collections, etc. So time factors we cannot be ignore. We cannot ignore their time factors, and populations and sample the group of individual events and data analysis. For instance, aging populations, or it could be the pupil in the school and educations. So we need to specify their group of their samples, and variable or a concept, which is key factors to be measured and identified. And we always consider limitations, constraints on resources, time, and data. So if even you want to have their 10 topics, but it is impossible to do 10 topics at the same times. Therefore, there is their time constraints. So you have to understand the limitation of the study. Okay, so let me exemplify what my former PhD students conducted, how he shaped the research ideas. Now he's Dr. Sajal Chaudhary from Bangladesh. And when he arrived University of Melbourne, talking with me at the first times, we started with the scope of the study. What he mentioned, he's interested in residential architecture, and he want to do people in Bangladesh. So there's a vaguely, he identify housing topology, which is residential buildings, okay, and particularly urban context, and the occupants, the users in Bangladesh. Okay, that is the really vague, but already the areas has been specified. Now, after the step one, scope of the research has been identified, we move on to the next step, which is background information, which encompasses the text, the overview of the topic or issues being studied, contextualize the elements and circumstances, and based on the research should be done based on the previous research, and education is a step ladder. So understanding of their previous study outcomes, is findings in study is very important, and also related to their topic, it is important to explore relevant theoretical frameworks. It says relevant theories and concepts that support their study and hypothesis. Quite often, good research came from the hunch experiences. Therefore, we don't need to underestimate their gut feelings and hypotheses. Try to envisage what their research should be engaged with, and a proposed explanation or predictions related to research area is very important. So a hypothesis is one of their components for into their background. So let me once again exemplify how the Sajal shaped the idea. Step two, he mentioned residential architecture, urban context, people in Bangladesh. So he started gathering background information. very beginning, geographical informations, obviously Bangladesh in a global context, and he wanted to explore urban context. Therefore, he picked the Dhaka. Uh, why? Because of the capital of the Bangladesh, and he explored the city populations is growing. The city is really growing now. And okay, so what kind of people, which market he want to explore, and different income groups in Dhaka in Bangladesh. It's quite obviously a middle income is surpass is quite articulated as opposed to high income and low income. And therefore, for the purpose of the establishment of the impact on the improvement of their people's life in urban context in Bangladesh, he picked the middle income group. But even middle income groups can fall into three types: low middle, and upper middle. Okay? So he want to explore this further, and he also investigated home ownership in Dhaka in Bangladesh, rented houses, which is apartment and own apartment, okay, and rented and own apartment. Okay, so this is the area. It's quite high. Okay. Rented apartment is relatively higher than owned apartment. A rented house and an owned house is quite similar. Okay. So he wants to explore this area. Okay. And furthermore, he stepped into the affordability level, okay, and middle income groups. Okay. Most of the middle income groups fall into their living conditions. They are, tend to be considered unaffordable. Okay. Um, so that's why they may hardly purchase their house and rented house rather than own the house. When own the house, what kind of sources they use, and this is source of the ownership. Majority of the people, personal saving, and also inherited from the family. That is their relatively big chunk of their source of their ownership. So personal family savings. So they have to save money. Okay? Uh, and what kind of sources, what kind of element they saved money. Okay? Um, so he also explored further. Yeah? It says the reduction. Probably you may have to read it. Even myself, very hard to read it. A reduction of their clothing entertainment cost 87%. They tried not to spend money for entertainment, reduce their money for additional exploring additional income. So they also explore additional income, 71% reduction of the food, 41%. So it's not really, comfortable living conditions in order to make life affordable and stable. They really spend a lot of effort for their money reductions. So that is their reality of people who live in the Ataka and urban context today. So that is the reality. Anyhow, the housing price is getting higher and higher. Okay? And the size of the house is getting smaller and smaller. And high, lower high, and upper high, so high income people, they tend to live in a little bigger house as opposed to middle income, low income people. They live in the house around 100 square meters. Okay? Therefore, he aimed uh, um, for exploring the housing whose area is less than 120 square meters or, or 1,200 square feet. Yeah. So that is a kind of background information he did it. And furthermore, he visited sites of high density. Most of the people live high rising building, middle income. Yeah. He visited like this, and he also explored there are some issues arising the urban domestic environment, health and wellness is a serious concern for the people who live in an urban context. Okay, so now move on to the next step, which is rationale for the study. So based on the data collected, background informations, you can find some context. Start to understand the context. So you have to rationalize their study. Why we need to do the research. So it is very important to clarify the purpose, why the study is being conducted, why the study is so important. Contextual relevance and significance, and probably you can find some gap in knowledge and reality. uh, and the research needs to have a contributions for the people and societies and improvement of their way of living, uh, um, and target audience, and the research should be read by a particular audience, uh, target audience, and practical applications, not only theoretical contributions, but also research should be a practical. So try to rationalize it, right? Rationalize for the research. Step 3. So let me um, exemplify what he did. He found gap. Yeah, he found a gap. Based on their background information, he found the gap. And the gap between architectural design done by architects and user needs and demands. So that is a little gap between the two. So architects tend to design the buildings without user involvement. Therefore, user needs and demands and somehow disregarded uh, and doesn't reflect uh, where they live in. So there's a gap. So he found there's a huge gap between the two. Therefore, he realized it is need for filling the gap. So, what kind of theoretical context, a channel, he want to use it, and he realized, okay, so user experience is important. Okay, so in order to make the people more comfortable, more affordable, and particularly enhancement of the wellness, user experience used as a channel to connect two dimensions. Okay. So he tried to rationalize it. Okay. His research. Okay. Once they rationalize, research problems and questions should be identified. Yeah. So research questions should be could be several. Yeah. But when you do a large level of research, for example, PhD thesis, or it could be a master uh, dissertations, research questions should be one, I mean, main research questions. Okay? But you can also have their sub research questions that can reflect on each chapter. Okay? But some people quite often take taking challenge to have the 2 or 3 main research questions, but almost impossible. Okay? So one main research questions is enough. But if you have the more, you can have the sub-research questions. So it is very important to have a hierarchy. Okay? And avoid the vagueness. Okay? The research question should be very specific. Okay? Broad questions can be very hard to explore. Okay? Therefore, the question needs to be narrowing down. Okay? Focus on specific questions, narrow the research questions that leads to the precise data collection, ensure feasible. So research question should be feasible, manageable, and achievable. Achieve their depth and originality and novelty is very important. So, but usually research questions and a PhD level, it takes one year to identify. So in order to reach that level, you have to have the step 1 to step 3, which I mentioned before. Now, let me show example what Satya developed research questions based on their background information and rationalized their research. He said he want to fill the gap between the 2 dimensions, architectural design and user needs and demands. He came up with the idea of a research question like this, and how can the domestic environmental experience of high density mid-income occupants be improved to enhance their mental wellness, well-being in Bangladesh. There's a health and wellness, but his background, academic background is not medical, the medicine. So he decided to focus on more wellness, which is manageable. And I showed the slides before. Research questions should be feasible and manageable. Okay, therefore, it is very important to specify the area that the research can handle. Okay, so this is anyway. So this is the research questions he developed. Okay? As I showed before, he want to use the user experience as a channel between the 2. Therefore, he focused on the user experience, but slightly different way, domestic environmental experiences. Use as a channel to contribute to the enhancement of mental wellness of middle income occupants in Bangladesh. So let's move on to the next stage, is research objectives. Research objectives is a more action plan. Action plan. In order to answer the research questions, we need to take actions, activities and actions. So these actions needs to be clarified and align with the research questions, obviously. And once again, manageable, feasible, and achievable within time frames and the resources and accessibilities, and it should be measurable. So you need to have the measurement of success. And I think this is very important too, logical order. Quite often research objectives reflect each chapter. So chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, or sub research questions. Each research sub questions has research objectives as well. So therefore, you can place objectives in order. Let me show the example of what Sajal did it. So this is objective 1, objective 2, objective 3. In order to answer this case is a main research questions. I just repeat, how can domestic environmental experience of high density middle income occupants be improved to enhance their mental well-being in Bangladesh? Number one, objective one is to explore a notion of domestic environment experience. It says research question, domestic environment experience. What does it mean by that? Yeah, he wanted to define it. Defined the domestic environment experience for occupants' mental wellness. Yeah. Objective two is investigate theoretical relationship, a theoretical relationship between environmental design, which is like thermal comfort, temperature, humidities, and indoor air qualities, and or indoor air quality or indoor environmental qualities and vision privacy, etc., etc. So these are physical, environmental design and well-being factors of the occupants. So he tried to understand the interrelation or theoretical relationship between the environmental design and wellness factors of occupants and domestic living. Yeah? So this is objective two, to investigate. Now, objective three is to structure EXD, so environmental experience design. This is abbreviation of environmental experience design methodological framework. So probably this is their main dish of his study and contribution. Structure a new novel methodological framework model that identify the correlation between user, space, and environmental design parameters of middle income occupants. So there's a three bubble: people, space, and environmental design parameters. So three bubbles put together, mingle through EXD methodological framework proposed through this study. And objective four is examining their living conditions and predictions. So users' current conditions, physical and also mental satisfactions, and their user future demands, prefers and needs and demands, preference of middle income and occupants in Bangladesh, and based on the EXD model proposed. So that means the objective four is collect their data, user data, as to their living condition and preferences. And this data was put into their methodological framework in order to identify the combination of three bubbles. Okay, three bubbles. Okay, that is objective 5. To analyze the EXT parametric combinations, okay, the combinations as to the today's conditions, physical conditions, and today's mental satisfaction level, and a future preference that users identifies. And so that kind of things had been visualized through proposed environmental experience design methodological framework for the purpose of improving middle income occupants' wellness in Bangladesh. So these are the objectives he developed. Once again, objectives, action plan in order to answer the research questions. Okay. Next stage is the research method. Okay, research method. Very beginning, I show one slide the differences between research methodology and research methods. Okay. Research methodology is more philosophical framework as opposed to research method, which is more practical techniques and tools and procedures. Okay? Therefore, research method appear in the context of research methodology. So I want you not to be confused by the differences between the two, research methodology and research methods. Okay? So research method is a practical things, and research objectives align with the research objectives. Okay? Because in order to do the research objective to explore, for example, notion of domestic environmental experiences, the research method could be literature review. So read the books and identify the existing theory, or it could be census and identify statistical data of today and tomorrow. Okay, so but anyhow, so research method is aligned with the research goal or research objective. Okay? What kind of data wants to be collected? Is a number or quality or mix of both? Okay? Qualitative data or quantitative data or mix? Okay? And data collections, how to collect the data. This is the probably more comprehensive element that reflect research method. Interview, personal interview, or questionnaires to be distributed, or simulations. Yeah, so these are procedure and tools to collect their data, and field trip is one of them, and a sampling. How much data you want to collect, decide on how and from whom data will be collected. If you want to explore the research on aging societies, and most likely older adults will be a subject or samples and that you want to explore, and analysis plan, and what kind of tools, what kind of approach to analyze the data collected. Okay? And once again, it should be feasible, manageable, and the last thing is quite important: ethics. Ethics. When you get the sample, the data from human experiences and perception, you need to get ethics approved. Ethics approval must be done before carrying out the actual research actions. This is a very important thing. So let me exemplify how Sajal did it. Okay. So in order to explore historical context, he did a literature review. Okay. And he also collect their data in the form of number for the purpose for numerical analysis and contextual analysis. This is more what the people say, probably through the questionnaires, and then combine them and combine the data, and he interpreted through the some technique, in this case, the name of association rules. But anyhow, and this is the start with the literature review, collect the data, a lot of books and references, and use keywords as a filter, narrowing down the number, and pick the relevant the references. First of all, data collected, database search using Scopus, Science Direct, and PubMed, open access. It could be traditional journals and cross searches. Google Scholar, ResearchGate. There's many their filters are available today through the internet, and he explored the titles and abstracts and review and number of articles. He initially review was 370 abstract. He read it and narrowing down, filter up and filter out, and the number of article reduced to 137, and they condensed, literally condensed, and finally, in-depth review had been conducted, using 84 references for the purpose of carrying out this particular research. So this is the, again, literature review, and he tried to cluster the area to understanding of the status quo, how important and how new their research is. And he discovered Professor Don Norman, and doing some research in related experience design. And this is environment psychology, environment design, user-centric design. And Don Norman, Don Norman Foster is an architect. And this is Don Norman, is a experience design, kind of pioneering and academic. And this is the area he want to focus. And our research is actually spearheading this particular area, which is known as a human-centric environmental design. It's not physics-centric environmental design, which is traditional, but our case is welcoming the research on subjectivities and human-centric environmental design. Anyhow, this is the field data. He did a literature review, and he actually visit their sites after ethics approval. After ethics approval, he was allowed to visit the site to collect information. This, which is Taka, Taka City, and these green dots are indications where he actually visited. But at the time, there was COVID. It took place, and he needed to have strategies and COVID-19 strategies. And when the visiting site is restricted, he needs to do online. But he needs to have the strategy to how to deal with the COVID circumstances. And this is the general strategies. So without COVID restrictions, he can actually visit and see the people and take pictures. These are filters that he used a lens. He used to narrowing down where he wants to explore further. Formal settlement, not illegal settlement. He doesn't touch upon the illegal settlement. It's a formal settlement, and public and private housing, and multi-story buildings, and middle income occupants, not high income, low income, middle income, because of their I already showed before, majority of people live in their urban context and middle income, and their size between 50 and 125. I showed before, there's a tendency high income people live in the house that are probably bigger than 120-25 square meters, and middle income people live this range. So he visits the site and collect their sample, and he visits the site. So he choose their locations according to the height and according to the orientation of why. The people live in the upper floor. Experiences are different from lower story. People who live in the middle story, the experience is different from a top story. The families living their houses and north facade, orientation different from the south. Yeah? People at east is different from west. Because why? Because of the sun position. Sun comes from the east and sunset west. Yeah. In Bangladesh, climatic conditions, they are south sun, but Melbourne here is a north sun. Yeah. It's a really different because of the sun is moving dynamically. Yeah. And the warmer rises, so lower portion is cooler than upper portions. And so you have to consider their orientation and their location and the height of the flat where people live in. Therefore, according to these circumstances, Sajal visited their houses, get the sample 50, and actually visit this summer times and winter time, right? Because of seasonal differences. Experience in the summer is different from experience in winter. Therefore, he visited twice. Okay? And urban store, this is the height. First story, second story, third story, and fourth story and fifth story, and sixth story. Each story has a different stories and different context. So he already mentioned to you, and not only height, but also orientations. And he visited the place and sketches. So he made a sketch by hand and take a picture of each. So case one, so these are his hand writing sketches, identify their plans, case one, case two, up until case 27, and continue to case 50. So each 50 houses he visited, he just sketch and then put the colors to identify their living conditions. But it is very important to note that house is consists of different functional spaces. Bedroom function is different from living room. Living room function is different from toilet. Toilet function is different from balcony, obviously. But today's architecture educations tend to not to pay attention to that kind of details. But when experience is involved, we pay a little bit more attention to each functional spaces. Therefore, Sajal very meaningfully put the color, each space in order to articulate the functional spaces of each. That makes a lot of sense. Now, research method, in order to not only literature review and a field trip, sketchings and photography, but he collect the data through the questionnaires and put into the simulation tools such as NVivo. And NVivo is a more contextual data mining, simulation tools and NVivo. And he wanted to do understanding of associations. He did a IBM SPSS modeler used as a tool to conduct their research, and the particular rule, association rule, and additional tool NCSS for the hierarchical clustering. He created. So these are research methods. Part of research methods he took. Now, let me move on to the last step, which is step 7. Step 7 could be included in the early step of their rationalization of rationalization of study, rationale for the study. But intentionally, I intentionally separated for the purpose of the articulating significance of these questions. So what questions? Okay. You need to do the research. So the research needs to answer, so what? After you conduct the research and people ask you, so what? So what can I learn from it? Okay. It doesn't work. Therefore, when you're shaping the research idea, okay, research proposal, we always pay attention to these simple questions. So what? So what questions? Clarify, clearly articulate the significance and relevance of the contribution. Okay? These contributions should be novel. Okay? Need to be novel. And identify the gap. Innovation, novelty is very important. Innovativeness, innovation is very important. And their knowledge contributions not only theoretical impact, but also practical applications. Okay? And if relevant, if applicable, the research can contribute or influence the, like a policy decision making, okay, in the future. Okay? And expected contributions, why I separated from the rationale for the study, and because of their quite often expected contributions can reflect the research title. Okay, let me see. Sajal research title. This is research title. Is environmental experience design framework, okay, for high density urban housing of middle income occupants in Bangladesh. So this is their expected contribution was proposing environmental experience design framework to fill the gap, okay, between architectural design and user needs and demands. Yeah? And I already mentioned in previously, he want to use the experience as a channel to fill the gap. Okay, so this is a final title. Okay? He proposed a domestic environmental experience design framework in order to answer the research questions. Okay? How can the domestic environmental experience of high density middle income occupants be improved for enhance their mental wellness in Bangladesh? Okay? And after he conducted research, and his research developed a ripple effect and led to the establishment of the brand new journal, American Journal of Environmental Experience Design. Okay? And Sajal is one of the key editorial board members, and even today contribute to the EXD, environmental experience design, EXD knowledge generation, okay, accumulations, and disseminations. Okay. Probably this is the main body of what I wanted to showcase the steps to shape the research ideas from their individual knowledge into their group knowledge in a way to showcase or demonstrate the kind of research proposal. Okay. But I think I still have a couple of minutes or maybe 5 minutes. Let me continue some slides, slightly top up. I like talking about the research engagement and what I have been doing, and because it is very important nowadays because sustainable development goal, we need to achieve it. In order to do so, research engagement is extremely important. So slightly top up, but let me showcase the significance, okay, magnitude of research engagement, okay, towards the achievement of sustainable development goal. And traditionally, sustainable development was introduced by United Nations in 1987. Okay? Social, economic, environmental sustainabilities were fundamental. But nowadays, sustainable development goal engaging 17 issues and slightly touch upon the human individual dimensions such as gender equalities and education and poverty issues, etc., etc. So, buildings of today, built environment of today, it needs to be socially, economically, environmentally, and humanly sustainable built environment, okay, through the research engagement, and which is the number 17 partnership. Okay? So let me exemplify the partnership. In order to facilitate national international collaborations and ZEMCH network, research engagement network was established using a free channel, which is known as LinkedIn. Currently, 934 members and join the research network for the national international collaboration. ZEMCH is an abbreviation of Zero Energy Mass Custom Homes. Um, and and in order to respect local language capacity and opportunities and limitations, and some regional groups are also developed, and India is one of the very active regional group. Today I'm going to showcase later. And through their collaborations, we also have their conference start from the 2012 when I was working for Macintosh School of Architecture. I initiated ZEMCH network was established 2010, and after 2 years, and then first conference took place. 13 Miami, 14 Brazil, let's say Malaysia, and 2017 we skip it, but 2018 here, University of Melbourne, we hosted at ZEMCH 2018 International Conference, and 19 South Korea. They want to introduce or demonstrate it, innovative building systems, which is known plug-in prefab building systems, and this is relatively new and innovative. And 2021, 2020 is COVID, and skip to the 2021 United Arab Emirates University hosted, EU University hosted, and 2022 BMS School of Architecture hosted, and Bangalore, and last year was Peru. And this year, November, VIT, Veller Institute of Technologies, will host 2024 International 11th International Zero Energy Mass Custom Home International Conference. And after the conference, we developed the proceedings and Scopus indexed proceedings. Currently, 2019, 2023, up until 2023, Scopus index, but now Scopus is backfilling up until 2012. In addition to the conference proceedings, some journal permanent collections, we also establish and publishing ZEMCH International Research Series, and this is their Q1 journal, Sustainabilities and Encyclopedia. And in addition to their conference, and train the professional through professional academics through the workshop taking place start from 2014 in Brazil, and 19 linked to the conference and workshop took place. The workshop held everywhere, and this is these are the country falling into South Latin America, Chile and oh, this is not Chile, UAU, Mexico and Chile, um, and Sanjay Mohe, who designed the Gandhi block, VIT, School of Architectures, and the block, Gandhi block, it was achieved a green rating, India first excellent level institutional green rating achieved and Gandhi block, and he designed it, and the assessment was done by my students, Kritika. He graduated Macintosh School of Architecture when I was teaching, and we have a Bible. We have a ZEMCH Bible, and based on the red book, Tyagaraja College of Engineering started teaching ZEMCH as an elective subject. Not only Tyagaraja College of Engineering, but also a VIT recently uh, established MH programs which encompasses zero energy mass custom home and environment experience design, ZEMICH EXD elective subject, and Mexico new university, Liberty Global University. They are now aiming to establish ZEMICH postgraduate programs. And the Delhi Griha, which is I think based on Delhi, and Griha Council, they work on the green rating, and now in the process, in collaboration with us and the VIT, we're in the process of developing ZEMICH, a rating scheme, and will be developed through their PhD research at VIT from next year. And now we are working on vertical subdivision development. Today, subdivision development is horizontally extended, okay? But urban sprawl is not really sustainable. The urban, the vertical subdivision could be extended vertically. So this is more pioneering an approach, and we work on that, learning from the Swedish experimental house. In 1960s already done it. But anyhow, time is up, so I'm going to stop my presentations. So big thank you for your attentions, and I'm more than happy to receive questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Masa, for taking us through this in-depth research work of your student that you explained in such a simple step-by-step manner. In fact, the
Mhm.
context of Bangladesh is quite similar to Indian context, I believe.
Mm,
So I'm sure that our listeners in India would definitely find your presentation useful for their research work from your the way you have explained. So we have a question from our listener. So the question is, using your
mhm.
publication, could you elaborate on a real-time concern you observed in your day-to-day life and how you transformed it into publication? What strategies do you use to identify gaps?
Well, I think like the history is comprised of daily life activities. So we always try to catch upon what's going on. For instance, you know, probably 1980s, our telephone is just like a zucchini or aubergine, but now is there, computer is right there. Okay, so it's really growing. Is there, like a G1, first generations, and every 10 years, their generation changes. 2020, uh, G5 comes in, probably 2030s. In the just matter of 60 years, our daily life is going to be drastic change. Most likely, Internet of Things is coming more dominant. Every electric appliances probably equipped with the IEA, sorry, IoT. So, we always, try to understanding of the past, today, and the future. So the research is there always like a catch upon the dynamic changes of our daily life activities. but it doesn't imply, a historical context. The research on the history is always outdated, but reading the history, we can see the future. So I think it's a very important understanding of the very dynamic relationship between the past and the future, and see the channel of today. So prediction is very important. So I think that's time frames is always a very important components when you do the research. So I don't, yeah. So I just articulated importance. Okay, never ever neglect or underestimate their research on the history of the past and the prediction of the future. So time is very
Definitely.
important. So
Yes,
I
yes,
thanks for a very important questions related to that.
yes. Definitely, I agree with you. So, thank you so much for being part of this session and for taking your time to join us today. And we look forward to more talks with you in future.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to
Yes,
sustainable collaborations to make the future
yes,
together. Thank you very
yes.
much.
Thank you so much. Bye.